So you're at home and your friend Andre comes over to tell you that he's built a time machine in his parents' garage. The only problem is that it isn't a very good time machine. It can only take you back to 1786. What it can do to make up for this obvious shortcoming is take you wherever in the world you want to go in 1786. The only question is, where do you choose? The machine won't let you choose to be an aristocrat, and the odds are stacked very high in favour of you being one of the common people. So you want somewhere quite egalitarian. You can expect to make some cultural faux pas being from such a different time, so you want this place to be quite liberal and tolerant of weirdos, like you. As well as this, you want a good quality of life, and to live within the spearhead of technology and understanding for the time. For all these reasons, in the year 1786, there's only one society that logically you should call home, and that society is the Ottoman Empire. If you thought I was about to say France, then you would be so wrong, and that is for one very crucial reason. The French Revolution has not yet happened. The French Revolution, a pivotal moment in history fundamentally altering the course of modern civilization through its profound impact on social and political structures. Its values challenged the long-standing feudal system and the absolute monarchy advocating for ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity. These principles sparked a change in France, but were fanned into an inferno that would engulf the world by one of history's most polarizing figures and the main character in today's story, Napoleon. Born in Corsica, 1769, Napoleon's tale begins not in France but on a rugged island simmering with political fervour. Young Napoleon, more a bookworm than a warrior, finds his calling in the military. With the French Revolution brewing, our protagonist emerges not just as a military savant, but as a symbol for new possibilities. The French Revolution profoundly impacts Napoleon Bonaparte, propelling his rise to power and shaping his political and military career. As a young officer, Napoleon capitalizes on the chaotic political landscape created by the revolution, rapidly ascending through the military ranks. By 1799, he's not just leading armies, he's leading France itself as emperor. Here is where we should pause briefly. Before I just read you his entire Wikipedia page, we're presented with a glaring issue in the life of Napoleon. His role as a totalitarian emperor, while championing the values of French Revolution, presents a striking paradox. On one hand, he promotes revolutionary ideals like meritocracy, legal equality, and secular governance. However, his autocratic rule and imperial ambitions contradict the revolution's foundational principles. This duality reflects a complex legacy where the pursuit of personal power and national glory often overshadows the commitments to the very ideals of freedom and equality that he initially seemed to embody. If at this point the sincerity of Napoleon's commitment to a new French Republic was in doubt, in July 1793, a young Napoleon Bonaparte's pro-republican publication caught the eye of none other than Augustin Robespierre. This connection led to his appointment as an artillery commander in Toulon. The city had been taken over by royalist forces opposed to the French Revolution, and it hosted a fleet of the anti-revolutionary coalition, which included British forces. Here, Napoleon's strategic brilliance shone. His plan to overtake a key hill changed the course of the siege, leading to the British evacuation. His success at Toulon rapidly propelled him from colonel to brigadier general at just 24, marking the beginning of an illustrious military career. In 1796, Napoleon Bonaparte revolutionized military strategy, combining the French Revolution's warfare methods with 18th century ideas. His unique approach in the Italian campaign dramatically altered traditional tactics, focusing on dividing enemy forces and rapid, decisive movements. Within weeks, he forced the Sardinians to surrender and swiftly moved against the Austrians, showcasing his genius in battles like Lodi and Arcole. This campaign not only solidified his reputation as a master strategist, but also set the stage for his future conquests, of which there would be many, and in a difficult period to define. While the period of time between 1803 and 1815 is referred to as the Napoleonic Wars, Napoleon had already cut his teeth in a period of war in Europe triggered by the seismic shock that was the French Revolution. This period, still ending in 1815 but starting back in 1792, is referred to as the Great French War. But there's an even longer period of overlapping and continuous conflict between France and Great Britain, starting all the way back in 1689, called the Second Hundred Years' War, which also ends on this date, 1815. So what happened in 1815? Well, Napoleon was defeated by a coalition of the remaining European armies. Another way of looking at this is that Napoleon was defeated by his own unbridled ambitions. As in the previous years, he had learned from experience the two things that one simply does not do: attack the British at sea and attack the Russians in Russia. And this brings us to the thesis of this video. More interesting than a simple chronology of Napoleon's battles are the echoes of his legacy that fill the halls of our modern history. Consider the French Revolution as a kind of Big Bang. There needed to be some fermentation, some tension for this bang to happen, but the bang was needed to break an entire human history's worth of bondage and suppression. If you've ever wondered what the actual moment that defines the threshold between ancient history and modern history is, it's the storming of the Bastille and the release of political prisoners that would start the French Revolution. What follows is the dawn of the modern era. Consider the date of Napoleon's undoing in 1815. This took place at Waterloo in Belgium. Now, if you throw a rock hard enough from Waterloo, it will land in the region of Flanders, where in 1915, exactly 100 years later, after the Battle of Waterloo, a generation of young men will sit in trenches amid the sound of machine gun fire and the smell of mustard gas, fighting the First World War. Revolutionary values fundamentally altered the political and ideological landscape of Europe, laying the groundwork for the conflicts of the early 20th century. A rise in Napoleonic nationalism, along with the reshaping of European borders and balance of power, fostered rivalries and tensions between the emerging nation-states. The spread of ideals such as liberty and equality clashed with the conservative agendas of monarchies, fueling political instability. These factors were instrumental in creating the complex web of alliances that ultimately led to the outbreak of World War I. And the crippling defeat of Germany in World War I and unrealistic expectations placed on the new German Republic of Weimar would inspire a German war veteran to lead his own nationalistic political party in a Napoleonic-style coup against the German parliament, and win. And if the rhyming style of history is not poetic enough, that German conqueror would meet his own end in an invasion of Russia, just like Napoleon Bonaparte. Today we take it for granted that our world is carved into these things called nations, with such clearly defined borders that to cross from one nation to another, you require documents provided to you by your state bureaucracy, and that each nation bears all the hallmarks that a nation should: a flag, a song that everyone sings before a football game, a synchronized swimming team in the Olympics, a representative at the UN. This mode by which powers interface with one another is upheld by liberal democracies who carry the flame of the Napoleonic Code and represent the dominant ideological structure of the world, so much so that alternative ways of viewing ourselves seem hard to imagine. Yet we're surrounded by them every day. Consider that Napoleon, under the banner of France, did not attack a German empire, but a loose confederation of German kingdoms, internally linked by family ties, customs, and myths that went back to paganism. Essentially still tribal groups, speaking over 300 different Germanic languages between them. Does the unification of all of these people under one flag make them instantly harmonious? Of course not. One such group of Germans, the Lombards, found themselves within the borders of the nation-state we today call Italy. Why do they speak Italian today? Because that's the language taught in the state schools. Does this make them feel Italian? Well, the region of Lombardy has campaigned endlessly for separation from the Italian state, and political groups from the region like the Northern League and Brothers of Italy push heavily against the European project and appeal to the centuries-old resentment. What if you don't see your borders as meaningful? What if the song you sing before your football team wasn't born out of revolution, but was imposed on you by a regime that doesn't share your values? What if your national borders feel arbitrary and you coexist with people who speak, eat, and pray differently, while your own family is trapped within the imaginary but oh so real confines of a completely different country? It was once said in response to the question, "Is God real?" God is as real as France. By implication, France and every other nation state is both a social construct, but as real as God, whatever that word means to you. The ultimate affront to peace in the 21st century is to dishonor the sovereignty of another nation state. But as we've seen in recent years, the pull of historical ties and old tribal alliances is not forgotten so quickly. Thus we can see the complicated situation that we are in. Even if we unraveled the nation state, or moved into a new organizational paradigm, there is no going backwards. Ancient history is over, and it is because of an idea called the French Revolution and the man who made that idea reality.